This is your tech news briefing for Wednesday, April 19th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Ukrainians looking for a new home following Russia's invasion of their country are being recruited to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma. The city wants to become a regional tech hub, and displaced Ukrainians offer the engineering skills many businesses need. Joining me to discuss how the program works and what it's like for new arrivals is Alicia Caldwell, who covers immigration for the Wall Street Journal. So Alicia, tell us a bit about how this program works and who it's trying to attract to Tulsa.
There's this nonprofit group in Tulsa, Oklahoma called the inTulsa Visa Network. It's an offshoot of another recruitment group, and they're trying to recruit Ukrainian would-be parolees, basically people who are allowed to move to the U.S. under the Uniting for Ukraine program. They're allowed to come here for 2 years. As soon as they get off the plane, they're eligible to work. And specifically, inTulsa is looking for those Ukrainians who want to move to Tulsa and have high-tech skills, specifically STEM degrees, people working in that field already, ready to hit the ground running.
So far, how many people have they attracted to Tulsa?
They've got about 15 approved for their side of the program. And then those folks, of course, are in various stages of process with the U.S. government, because you also have to be approved by the U.S. government. And you get a sponsor and you're allowed to come to the U.S. In this case, one of the organizers of inTulsa is acting as the sponsor. And inTulsa, the Visa Network, acts as the broader sponsor in the sense of helps you get housing, picks you up at the airport, arranges for your travel. And once you get here, or in some cases before you arrive, they'll start connecting you with would-be employers. You've got to interview, of course. There's no guarantee that any one employer is going to pick you, but you start interviewing and hopefully you get placed with a job and you go forward.
You've spoken to some of these people. What has their experience been like moving to Tulsa, taking up this opportunity?
It's been interesting. I spoke with a man named Andrei Skoryakov. He and his family, 2 daughters and his wife, moved in December. And when they were looking at this program initially online, when they were living in France last year, Andrei said he thought it might be a scam. And then he spoke to one of the organizers who himself emigrated from Ukraine as a child. And they spoke, and he felt far more comfortable, obviously, and went down that process. He's now working remotely in Tulsa from his new 3-bedroom house just outside downtown Tulsa. He says it's a big change for the family. They're used to living in an urban center. They're from Kyiv, and they were in, a big apartment building, and now they've got the single-family home in the suburban area, and it's a change, but it's a nice change for them. Obviously, they're no longer concerned about the war coming to their front door, though their oldest son remains in Ukraine. He got some military service as well as finishing his college degree and hopes at some stage to become a commercial pilot. And Andrei has said he'd like to help his son move to the United States and pursue that career path as he himself gets settled here in the U.S.
Are there any additional limitations that these programs place on them?
Not especially. With Uniting for Ukraine, things are actually a lot easier for these particular immigrants, right? They are approved to come to the United States, and as soon as they step foot on U.S. soil, you fly into JFK, you go through immigration, you're legally eligible to work, which is a huge difference compared to asylum seekers, for instance, who come across the southwest border, who are basically on their own once they're released from U.S. government custody, if they're released. They have to navigate a system on their own. Ukrainians and other people who are allowed to come in under these parole programs, and it's expanding to 4 other Latin American countries, Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, they are in a much better position. For the Ukrainians, for instance, they're eligible for some social welfare benefits that are typically reserved for refugees. While these folks are not legally defined as refugees, they're treated in much the same way. And with the sponsorship program, generally, the sponsor is on the hook, if you will, to help you find a house, help you get settled, possibly find language classes, get some educational training. If your career doesn't necessarily translate directly, or if your degrees don't translate directly. With Uniting for Ukraine matching up with inTulsa, the goal is to skip some of those steps, if you will, right? Because it's already built in by inTulsa.
You mentioned they're allowed to come here for a couple of years. Can you tell us more about that? Could these Ukrainians stay in the country longer if they wanted to?
Right now, their parole is eligible for 2 years. And it's the same for those other 4 countries. And inTulsa network will try to help where it can for those who decide they want to stay. Is there an avenue by which they can change their status and become either permanent residents or obtain a visa to stay beyond that 2 years? And frankly, we don't know what will happen when these paroles start to expire. Obviously, the war in Ukraine continues, and its fate is still yet to be determined. And the U.S. government's determination on what to do with those parole dates is still up in the air.
Let's talk a little bit about the tech scene in Tulsa. What's it like, and how are they trying to develop it?
It's growing, and they're struggling, I'm told, to find workers. So the inTulsa program, the nonprofit that's then spawned the Visa network, started out recruiting tech workers to Tulsa. Just U.S. residents and people working in the U.S. come to Tulsa. We've got all these jobs. Help us fill them. Then they expanded to the Visa network once the Uniting for Ukraine program was developed. They saw a dual purpose there, right? You can help people escape this war and fill jobs. So basically the goal writ large in this burgeoning community is to make Tulsa something of a tech hub, a Silicon Valley of the heartland.
Is this program, is this strategy something other cities are also trying to emulate?
Not that I've seen so far. Right now, it's not a city-sponsored program, but the mayor of Tulsa, Mayor Bynum, is super aggressive in welcoming immigrants. He's a Republican in a very red state who said, you know what, this is an approach I want to take. Our population has grown because of immigration, because of foreign-born people moving into Tulsa. It's gone from 9% to about 11% of the population over the last couple of years. He sees an economic driver there.
All right, that's our reporter, Alicia Caldwell. Thanks for joining us. And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. If you want more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.